The disturbance that took place at the Théâtre des Champs-Élysées in Paris on May 29, 1913, during the premiere of the ballet The Rite of Spring, has become so shrouded in legend that it's difficult to determine exactly what occurred. In the most common retelling, a full-scale riot broke out that included multiple fistfights, the hurling of objects into the orchestra pit, a duel challenge, and the intervention of the police. In other accounts, the boos and catcalls that greeted the early sections of the work eventually receded, and the second half of the ballet was performed in relative silence. According to Stravinsky, the ballet's instrumental introduction did provoke some hisses and whistling, but, in his words, the storm really broke when the curtain opened upon a group of knock-kneed, long-braided lolitas hopping up and down. It's understandable that the audience would react as strongly to what they saw on stage as to what they heard coming from the pit. In an era before what would come to be known as modern dance, people went to the ballet expecting to see beautiful bodies in form-fitting outfits dancing gracefully to tuneful music. And since Parisian audiences during that period were often divided along lines of class and generation between an older, more affluent conservative faction and a younger, more progressive contingent, an atmosphere of volatility pervaded the hall before a note was played. There's no question that Stravinsky's score was met with incomprehension by both musicians and lay listeners, who were already exasperated with the fundamentally radical changes that were occurring in new music, which far surpassed previous evolutionary norms of musical language that would usually provoke short-term protest before yielding to acceptance. Stravinsky's music for the Rite of Spring was particularly revolutionary in its rhythmic language, which is characterized by frequent meter changes and unexpected accentuations. Moreover, the uncompromising boldness and ambition of this score must have made many listeners feel as if they had been confronted by an irrevocable, visceral force that didn't evince the slightest interest in charming or winning them over. And yet, for all its radicalism, this music is built upon the types of thoroughly logical, understandable, and quite traditional foundations that are so frequently present in Stravinsky's work. Because the Rite of Spring is so often heard in the concert hall, it's easy to forget that this music was written with a simple purpose: to reflect and amplify the ballet's narrative. Further, if we consider what the ballet is about, a tribe of ancient pagan Russians who select a virgin to perform the ritualistic inauguration of spring by dancing herself to death, it's unsurprising that Stravinsky would write music that depicts a chaotic, uncivilized, brutal existence, a world so primitive and misshapen it could only appear utterly bizarre and foreign to us. At the same time, the materials Stravinsky uses to create this tableau can be discerned and understood without great difficulty. The crushingly dissonant harmonies that saturate this score are usually constructed by piling individually consonant chords on top of each other to create an effect that expresses both primal conflict and bracing resonance. Smoothly conventional melodic lines are made odd and spiky by taking individual notes and popping them up or down an octave. Motor figures, or ostinati as they're called, evoke the irrepressibility of the life force, while folk music materials recall the rituals of a pagan society. The orchestral textures Stravinsky creates are particularly masterful. Although the quintuple winds and brass he calls for might seem indulgent, this vast contingent was chosen for the specific purpose of enabling Stravinsky to write choir-like five-note chords in the same instrumental color. And while the score is filled with towering sonic combinations, it also contains many passages in which widely differing, unrelated textures are presented simultaneously in a manner that depicts a random, anarchic, unintegrated world. Stravinsky's ingenious combination of all these elements results in one of the most influential scores ever written, a piece that joins works such as Wagner's Tristan und Isolde, Beethoven's Third and Ninth Symphonies, and Monteverdi's Orfeo on that very short list of scores that permanently altered the future of music.